Los Angeles, a city built on dreams, on ambitions,
Michael Jackson,
Madonna,
Dr. Dre,
and on unrest.
This is in South Central Los Angeles, the vicinity of 84th and Vermont. Once again, all streets leading into those areas are closed off now.
To the good people of Los Angeles, caught at the center of this senseless suffering, the violence will end. Justice will be served. Hope will return.
The year is 1990, and Buster Douglas has caused a huge upset as he knocks out Mike Tyson. Madonna has taken over the world, with Vogue topping the charts worldwide, and the Detroit Pistons, led by Isaiah Thomas, become only the third NBA team ever to win championships back-to-back. Also in 1990, N.W.A. were riding the success of their album, Straight Outta Compton, but beneath the chart-topping hits and media frenzy, the seeds of West Coast dominance in music were beginning to take place as N.W.A. started working on their second studio album. N.W.A. began recording F.L. for Zaggin in late 1990, with Dr. Dre, who was already recognized as a sonic innovator, taking a central role in production alongside DJ Yella. Dr. Dre experimented with sound in ways that hinted at what would become G-Funk: deep, rolling bass lines, the classic synthesizers, and subtle P-Funk sampling from legends like Parliament Funkadelic, Bootsy Collins, and James Brown. Upon release on May 28, 1991, F.L. for Zaggin debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, climbing to number 1 the following week. Selling 954,000 copies in its first week, it became the first gangster rap album and the first independently distributed album to top the charts, eventually going platinum. But behind the triumph, tensions were simmering at an all-time high.
A lot of rumors going around about the group breaking up and everything. That's not happening. We're still a part of NWA. NWA is still together. I just had to move aside for a minute and do my own thing, make a little bit of Dre's money, you know what I'm saying? Ren is doing his own solo thing, and everybody's gonna get paid.
Ice Cube had left the group a few years earlier, frustrated with royalties, and Dre, who felt overworked and underpaid at Ruthless Records, began feeling like his talents weren't being properly compensated by Eazy-E and Jerry Heller, and would confide in his close friends, the DOC, and former football player turned local bodyguard, Suge Knight, with both of them encouraging Dr. Dre to consider his own path and create his own way with their help alongside him.
Why did Ice Cube leave, and then why did Dre leave?
Same reason. The ends wasn't right. Point blank. Get funny with the ends.
You know, had to do my thing, man. Tired of making other people money. It's time to make Dre some ends.
Suge Knight, known for his strong arm reputation, negotiated Dr. Dre's release along with other Ruthless members such as the DOC, Jewel, and Mish LA, and with Dre free, the West Coast stage was set for something new. The story of Death Row Records is often told as Dre and Suge's creation, but the real financial backbone came from Michael Harris, or better known as Harry O, a seasoned theatre and music entrepreneur and financier whose storied capital made the label's early operations possible. In the fall of 1991, Harry O, who was in prison having been charged with kidnapping and attempted murder charges, stated that he introduced his lawyer, David Kenner, to Suge Knight, with Harry O investing $1.5 million to co-found Godfather Entertainment with Knight. As it was illegal for a prisoner to run a business, Harry O described his role as a consultant to his wife Lydia's role in the business. Suge disputes the substance of this financing story, instead stating the source of funding included Sony, Interscope, and Time Warner Records, and stating the original founding team as Suge Knight, Dr. Dre, the DOC, and Solar Records executive Dick Griffey.
Originally, we created a company called Godfather Entertainment, which was the parent company of Death Row Records. And Suge was, I believe, the president of Godfather, and Dr. Dre was the president of Death Row Records. And so we set it up like that because Godfather was going to do other entertainment assets like films and concerts, but Death Row took off.
And where'd you come in at?
I just was solid. I was behind.
They said you was the money man.
Well, it wasn't just the money man. I helped structure it, but in my situation, I wanted to play it back. I kind of wanted to just have a phantom present because I just got a life sentence and I had got a 20-year sentence from the feds, and I didn't want that to become the focus. I wanted it to be about the business that we had created.
Did they take care of you when you was away?
I mean, everything was good. I mean, you know, everything was organized, but as things got bigger, it got crazy.
Yeah.
Another additional source of income for Death Row Records came in the most peculiar way possible, and he goes by the name of Vanilla Ice.
Van Winkle describes a terrifying night in his suite at a Beverly Hills hotel when he says Suge Knight showed up with 6 other men.
Roughed one of my bodyguards up. They roughed everybody else and my whole entourage up. Suge took me out on the balcony, started talking to me personally.
On the balcony?
On the balcony.
High above?
Like 15 floors. He had me look over the edge, show me how high I was up there.
Were you scared?
I needed to wear a diaper on that day. I was very scared.
On the balcony, Van Winkle says Suge Knight told him to sign over points from the song to a man named Mario Lavelle Johnson.
That's the guy that Suge Knight brought over there that was an acquaintance of mine that had nothing to do with that song.
You signed over the rights?
Signed over the rights to him so that Suge and them could get paid for it.
So Mario Lavelle Johnson didn't write that song?
No way.
How much were those points worth?
About $4 million, $3 million, anywhere between there. $3 to $4 million.
Welcome to Death Row.
Creeping down the back street on D's. I got my Glock cocked cause niggas won't these.
Death Row is gonna be the label of the future. Death Row is an artist label where the artist is always right. It's a situation where we give a home and have open arms to artists.
What I'm doing right now, I'll be putting out a solo album soon called Overdose. It'll be out maybe the end of May. It's gonna be hitting.
One of the first stories from the early days of Death Row Records was when Warren G, Dr. Dre's stepbrother, made an introduction to Dre that would change everything.
Warren G used to always try his best to get me to go to the NWA parties, and I used to be real shy. I didn't want to be around them because I felt like they were doing their own thing. But Warren G believed in it so much to where I guess it was like a bachelor party that they had.
I was at a bachelor party and my stepbrother Warren G just popped this tape in and said, listen to this. And it was Snoop's voice. And I said, can we meet? We meet in the studio. You know, long story short, I think it was 2 days later or something like that. Snoop came in the studio. Snoop had no idea about song structure or anything like that. He just came in rapping.
Dre immediately recognized Snoop's natural charisma and unique voice, with our first session producing what would become Deep Cover, a song that would not only debut Snoop's career, but also hint at the sonic blueprint for The Chronic.
Leaving N.W.A. behind, Dre started his own label, Death Row Records, and found a new partner, rapper and former drug dealer Snoop Dogg, who he first teamed up with last summer on the Deep Cover soundtrack.
Frustration was on my mind and I was hungry as far as wanting to work, and I put my whole heart on the line with that song. That's probably why so many people felt me off of that song and really, you know what I'm saying, wanted to dig into the vibe of Snoop Dogg and see what was really going on, because that song was so real and was so from the heart.
Close friend of mine, we call him DOC, talked me into doing the Chronic album. I went in there and I went.
So it wasn't even a Dre decision?
No, it wasn't my decision. I was talked into doing that.
Okay.
And yeah, I just went in there and went for it because I felt like at that time it was a life or death situation.
Number one, Dre never thought about making music. I had to talk him into it. I had to fight with him for months to even make the Chronic. He didn't want to do it. He didn't see himself as a solo artist. I mean, but my shit was fucked up, so you all we got. And so come on with it.
Come on, nigga.
With a new label forming, Dre began assembling his roster of talent with Nate Dogg's soulful hooks, Warren G's production instincts, Corrupt and Daz Dillinger's streetwise narratives, RBX's creative lyricism, the Lady of Rage's commanding presence, and the DOC, once a close collaborator at Ruthless, helping to write lyrics and hone the skills of other label mates. Each individual would become part of the emerging Death Row identity, although it does have to be put out there that Warren G wasn't actually signed to Death Row Records. Even with extraordinary talent assembled, financing a project of this magnitude proved to be a challenge. Dre shopped the project around all the major labels, but with every label hesitant and wary of both the gangster rap controversy, Dre's legal troubles, including his violent incident with TV host D Barnes, and Dre's muddy departure from Ruthless, none were willing to take a chance on what they saw as someone who came with too much baggage. But Jimmy Iovine of Interscope Records recognized Dre's vision. In 1992, Dre secured a groundbreaking $10 million deal, which included full financing and distribution through Interscope Records, giving Death Row the freedom to produce without compromise. And despite the controversy swirling around Dr. Dre and gangster rap, the deal allowed Dre to finally control the sound, the roster, and the vision for what would become the next big thing in pop culture.
Why'd you call it The Chronic? The Chronic. In Bud We Trust. Yeah, man, The Chronic is like, it's the bomb thing on the street right now, And I figure, my album is the bomb, so I had to call it that.
Suge Knight and Dr. Dre walked in my office, and what I heard coming through speakers that I really was familiar with was something so extraordinary. I just knew that whoever did that was incredible.
This is in South Central Los Angeles, the vicinity of 84th and Vermont. Once again, all streets leading into those areas are closed off now.
April 1992, Los Angeles was burning. The city's streets erupted in anger, grief, and chaos after the acquittal of the officers who had beaten Rodney King. For Los Angeles, the tension in the streets became the soundtrack of a city on the edge. And for Dr. Dre, this would become the backdrop for what would later go on to be a trailblazing album. While LA burned outside, inside Death Row Studios, Dre and his growing team of Death Row inmates were crafting a sound that would define a generation. Unlike the fractured last days of N.W.A., Death Row was a collective, almost family-like environment. Ideas bounced off of every corner with Snoop freestyling hooks, Nate Dogg smoothing the choruses, and the DOC refining lyrics. Essentially, each Death Row inmate adding a layer to the album. Sessions ran between April to June of 1992, but again, it's important to remember that the chaos outside shaped the atmosphere in the studio. News of curfews, fires, and clashes between police and civilians filtered into every lyric from the artists. Dre wasn't just producing an album, he was documenting a city in revolt, translating the rage and resilience of Los Angeles into sound.
For a while, I think everybody was believing that if it's a hip hop record, it has to sound dirty and it has to sound gritty. I beg to differ, I feel like you can do it, make it sound as clean as a Michael Jackson album, and still be aggressive and still give you that same feeling.
And by June of 1992, The Chronic was essentially complete. From the ashes of a city in turmoil rose a new West Coast sound that blended both funk and street grit. The stage was set to unleash G-Funk onto the world and reintroduce Dr. Dre and his Death Row inmates.
Whole 92 was, talking about Dre. Just kept my head above water until my album came out. 92 just wasn't my year. 93 will be, though. You can believe that.
On December 15th, 1992, Dr. Dre released arguably the magnum opus of his career as The Chronic hit the shelves, charting as high as number 3 on the Billboard 200 and staying in the top 10 for 8 consecutive months, with the album eventually going triple platinum in 1993. A new era of hip-hop was upon us. Death Row Records, co-founded by Suge Knight, became synonymous with the new West Coast dominance, and at the center of it all was Dr. Dre, the sonic architect whose fingerprints won every track and every beat.
Right back at ya. DRE featuring Snoop Doggy Dogg and the Death Row inmates. Daz, Corrupt, RBX, and yes, on the gangster tip, Miss Lady Rage. So come on down and get it while it's hot. The Chronic, it is the bomb for 93.
The reason people are so into the album, why do you think?
Cause it's, it's just some funky shit, There's nothing out right now that can compare to that album. I spent a whole year working on it. This is the longest I ever spent working on a project. And it's definitely deserves everything it's getting right now. Cause it's a good album. People want to hear some good shit.
The album included several cultural anthems that would stand the test of time, which included Nothing But a G-Thang, a track that not only went and crossed over into the chart, but also put Snoop Dogg onto the mainstream stage and would chart as high as number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and become the most sold single in March of 93.
G-Thang, was that a specific, Matter of fact, we did G-Thang here in my house. Yeah. I got a 24-track studio in the house, and we just kicking it around. I put some samples together, Snoop and Doc came over and put some lyrics to it.
On Dre Day, Dr. Dre enlists Snoop's help to diss every artist that had publicly called him out on wax, such as New York rapper Tim Dog, who had released F. Compton, arguably the first song ever to kickstart the West Coast-East Coast rivalry. 2 Live Crew member Uncle Luke was also dissed on Dre Day, as the two had fallen out on tour back when N.W.A. and 2 Live Crew were cool.
We were in St. Louis, we were on tour with N.W.A. and so for some strange reasons, the girls that we had at that time, like any other girl that would be around Easy and Dr. Dre, would end up in their room. So our dancers spent the night with Dr. Dre and them, and Luke left them.
I dissed them, they dissed me, and then we did Cowards in Compton. Right. Originally they did the Snoop diss, and then we did our diss. Our diss obviously wasn't as popular as theirs.
You guys saw each other though, right? At Jack the Rapper or something like that?
Yeah, we saw each other at Jack the Rapper. We need to meet because the shit gonna go from 0 to 100. Right. You know, because all the tough guys from Miami had to migrate to Atlanta. Oh. And they was running the dope game in Atlanta.
Oh, makes sense.
You feel me? You know, the beef was going back and forth. It became some real serious shit because, again, dudes who I came up with, they really on that shit.
And of course, we can't forget Eazy-E, who was the main focal point of the entire diss track, after him and Dre had lingering tensions from the back end of the NWA days. And although not 100% confirmed, some of the Dre Day lyrics may have also dissed Ice Cube. For example, when Snoop says,
"Then we gon' freak to South Central on a street knowledge mission."
He's alluding that he'll go to Cube's hometown, and then mentions Ice Cube's record label, which was originally called Street Knowledge. Dr. Dre then says,
"As I steps in the temple, got my chrome to the side of his white socks hat,"
which could be him alluding to Cube's affiliation with the Nation of Islam, and claims to spot Ice Cube in his famous white socks hat and stick him up with a firearm. Snoop finally says,
"You tryna check my homie, you best check yourself,"
which is obviously a play on words to Cube's hit song, Check Yourself. On Let Me Ride, the music video was released in August of 1993. Dr. Dre takes us through a day in his life living in LA, starting with him chilling at home watching the $20 sack pyramid, then cruising in his lowrider, picking up girls, and even giving us a cameo from Ice Cube 9 months on from the audio release of the Chronic album, which would officially squash the tension they may have had in the NWA days.
Like Let Me Ride, that was it was a little part on the record that it boom, 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 let me ride. So I let Dre hear that. He took that motherfucker and turned it into some other shit, right? You know, so that's what I used to do. I would bring records like that. Sometime I would sample them, sometime I just play the record like, listen to this shit, Dre.
Other notable tracks on the album include Lil Ghetto Boy, which is a heartfelt storytelling track over soulful instrumentation, giving deep social commentary on Compton life. These Nuts, a party track with humor and attitude, showing Dre's versatility. And Go With a Gun, a dark, cinematic storytelling, highlighting Dre's early narrative experimentation and street realism. These singles set the stage for Dr. Dre's meteoric rise, as he had essentially made the soundtrack for an entire generation.
What's the most prolific thing you think you've ever written or penned? Like if you could be remembered for one of your things.
Everybody tells me that, you know, that album is classic. I think I can do better.
But in 1992, no one could do better. Dre's debut solo album, The Chronic, which is named after the street term for potent, is at number 3 on the Billboard Pop chart.
But behind the music and the success of The Chronic, 1993 did also present some challenges for Dr. Dre, as his case from the D Barnes incident rose again. When he violated his probation from that case, it was notably placed on house arrest in 1993, following a guilty plea for battery of a police officer and an assault charge involving producer Damon Thomas.
D Barnes, host of the Fox TV rap show Pump It Up, is filing a civil suit against Dr. Dre of the hardcore rap group N.W.A. Barnes seeks damages over $10 million
and claims that last January at a Los Angeles club, Dre assaulted her, grabbing her hair, slamming her face and body into a wall, and kicking her in the ribs. After 2 years of being the subject of numerous lawsuits, arrests, assault allegations, being shot at, and having his house burned down, Dr. Dre, now officially an ex-member of N.W.A., is reluctant to discuss any of those controversial incidents, even after appearing on the cover of The Source magazine in November, holding a gun to his head.
These conflicts would also hinder The Chronic significantly, as the tour that was planned never materialized, even though a lot of marketing had gone into promoting the upcoming tour. According to multiple LA Times reports, it was halted after just a handful of shows, approximately 7, and then indefinitely postponed. And while the cancellation and postponed shows weren't officially blamed solely on legal issues, the broader legal context certainly played a role in complicating touring logistics. These legal matters, especially a 1994 jail sentence and the conditions of probation, would have made touring significantly more complicated or unwise from both management and liability standpoints.
You're off and out of here and out on the road soon with a great big rap show. Who all's going to be involved in this? You and Snoop? And
Yeah, it's called a Chronic Tour. Myself, Snoop, the Death Row inmates, Run DMC, Onyx, and the Boss.
Can you tell us more about the Boss?
The Boss, little female gangster. She's in the house. I love her.
Dr. Dre is due to start serving 5 months in a Los Angeles city jail. Dre led police on a high-speed car chase while driving drunk last January, thus violating the law and his probation for a previous assault rap.
The Chronic turned West Coast rap into a cultural force, proving that hip-hop could be as polished and innovative as any genre in music. And while Dre didn't take the Chronic on a full tour, its reach was felt everywhere.